Hey folks, Jeff from Corrugated Cavalier here. Today we have a video about my approach to Fiore's Abrazare, some of my reasoning behind what I do, why I do it, stuff like that. I've been doing the Fiore Abrazare workbook series, so go check those videos out in that playlist up there. Before I begin, I really want to extend some thanks to some folks who have really helped me out along the way with this. First, Jason Cook of Per La Vida Academy, Luke Ireland of The Exiles, virtually. I've met him once, but he's helped me out online quite a bit. Ian Davis of Boston Abrazare. Kimmy Roseblade, I took 2 of her workshops on Fiore Abrazare, as well as Liberty Sword Club, which is the club that I teach this stuff at, and Dan Holliday for allowing me to kind of experiment with this stuff and work through it and workshop some ideas. So one of the primary things that I want to do with Fiore's Abrazare is to take the fear out of grappling and wrestling. A lot of HEMA folks are uncomfortable with grappling or wrestling or don't have mats for falling and stuff like that, so they don't do it, and to me that's unfortunate because I think it's very much a part of just about any system that I've looked at, wrestling at the sword, etc., etc. And I also believe that a lot of people who would have been doing these sword systems in the past probably would have had prior wrestling knowledge. I look to take the fear out of grappling and wrestling by really focusing on fundamentals and technique. So a lot of HEMA folks don't have a martial arts or athletic background before they get to HEMA. Some do, some don't. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. We're all welcome. HEMA really is for everybody, and I fully believe that. There's just something to coordinating multiple limbs and applying force and receiving force as well with your own body before you have the force multiplier of a long steel lever in your hands. For some of these fundamentals and techniques, I use informed conjecture based off of the manuscript. Not everything is explicit in there, but I believe that there are some implicit things that you can draw out. And these are things that I can't guarantee were necessarily being done at the time, but seem implicit in the manuscript to me. But especially things like the ties and the series about ties, like wrist ties, bicep ties, etc. Those are shown in the manual. He doesn't talk about those specifically. Throws from the posta, body lock throws, etc. And last but not least, taking the fear out of wrestling by learning how to fall. It's very important in wrestling. It's obviously important in everything, sword, dagger, etc., but it's especially important in wrestling to be able to fall safely. And I really think that everybody should be able to do that. So that is another way we look to take the fear out of wrestling. Another reason is to be able to wrestle safely when we have weapons in hand. Being able to wrestle standalone is great, and I think you need that skill before you really apply it to wrestling with sword, dagger, spear, what have you in hand. So wrestling alone is great and a lot of fun, good exercise, but being able to grapple safely with a sword, dagger, etc. is another part of learning wrestling on its own. So one thing you won't see from my approach, at least at the moment, is striking. Fiore does mention striking in Abrazare. They absolutely may be added in for any other Fiorists out there who might be using this or looking at it as a way of doing things, but right now I'm looking just to build a safe foundation for wrestling and grappling. As far as I understand as well, if you're in the US and insured by the HEMA Alliance, I don't believe that they cover striking to the body and stuff like that with insurance. That doesn't mean that you couldn't do it striking to mitts or pads, etc., at least as far as I understand. You will also see me use some techniques where Fiore is basically telling you to break somebody's arm, elbow, shoulder, what have you, and I am going to replace those typically with something that is a more friendly wrestling option, but that I believe still uses sort of the same concept and positional strategy that play is using. So perhaps if you're getting to the outside of somebody and Fiore just wants you to extend that arm and break it, maybe that's a place that we look for a Russian tie from modern wrestling instead. So that's just a general layout of what I'm looking to do with my approach to Abrazare. I have videos up on some things before we even get into the plays for those implicit things and to kind of build a whole system and way of wrestling. I hope that people find this useful and interesting. Do you practice wrestling in your club? How do you practice it? Is it kind of similar to this? Is it different somehow? Please let me know down in comments. I would love to hear about it. I'm also very happy to answer any questions folks may have about starting wrestling in their club. I will do the best that I can, or possibly refer you to some other people who have helped me out along the way as well. Thank you for coming by the channel. Please click like, subscribe, share this around to people who might find this interesting or useful. Be good to each other, and ciao.